Alright, guys. Let us discuss about the development of the tongue, and hence let us enter today's session with development of the tongue. So, development of the tongue. Tongue. Before going to development of the tongue, let us speak some of the gross anatomical aspects of the tongue. Tongue, it is actually it's a muscular structure, completely muscular structure, and its anterior end is free while the posterior end is attached. And the tongue has two different kinds of muscles, intrinsic muscles as well as the extrinsic muscles. Intrinsic muscles will be transverse and oblique muscles as well as the longitudinal muscles. As well, the extrinsic muscles will be like palatoglossus, which is not considered as a muscle of tongue, but it's considered muscle of palate more. Apart from that, we have genoglossus, styloglossus, and some other muscles as well. So this thing, the nerve supply is of quite importance because we can correlate it with embryologically. The anterior two-thirds of the tongue, there are general sensations and special sensations. The general sensations are carried by the the mandibular division of the lingual branch of the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, while the special sensations are carried by the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve. The posterior one-third of the tongue, that is something which is present behind the sulcus terminalis and the foramen cecum. That posterior one-third of the tongue is supplied by something, the nerve of the third pharyngeal arch. It's nothing but the glossopharyngeal nerve or the ninth cranial nerve. Now, posterior most part of the tongue, both general and special sensations, they are carried by the something called as the superior laryngeal nerve, which is actually superior laryngeal nerve. It's a branch of the vagus nerve. So this is about the nerve supply, so that we can correlate it. We start correlating it biologically. The concept becomes more and more clear. So let us draw there. There is one more muscle called as the palatoglossus. Palatoglossus is the extrinsic muscle of the tongue. It is not supplied by any of these cranial nerves. It is supplied by the something. It's partly by 10th and partly by the 11th cranial nerve. And that particular thing is represented, 9th, 10th and 11th is represented as the vagus accessory complex. This vagus accessory complex supplies the palatoglossus muscle. So let us discuss it. So first of all, we'll discuss about the pharyngeal arches in a very short manner, so that we can understand development of the pharyngeal arches. The first arch, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, the fifth will be obliterated, and then ultimately the sixth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Obliterated fifth and the sixth. We have ectodermal clefts, endodermal pouches, and mesodermal arches. First thing, this thing, which will be seen on the other side, is the first arch, first mesodermal arch. So, whatever the tongue it has initially, it will develop from two structures called as lingual swellings. The lingual swellings which will be present on either side of the first arch. Lingual swellings which are seen on either side of the first arch, and the junction of the anterior two-third and posterior one-third of the tongue, that is nothing but the sulcus terminalis. We can see something called as sulcus terminalis. The sulcus terminalis, it is present at the junction of the first and the second arch. And exactly at the junction of the first and second arch, we have one more structure. This is called as foramen cecum. This is called as foramen cecum. So let us label it. These two are the lingual swellings, and this thing is the sulcus terminalis, which divides the anterior two-third and the posterior one-third. And this thing present at the center is called as the foramen cecum. This foramen cecum the thyroid actually develops from these foramen cecum. So it forms a duct called as thyroglossal duct, in which the substance of which the thyroid gland develops. And after the formation of the thyroid gland, it is present in the pharynx and later it descends. After the formation of the thyroid gland, the thyroglossal duct will be obliterated. If at all it fails to obliterate, that may result in thyroglossal cyst and thyroglossal fistula. Thyroglossal cyst is a midline swelling in the anterior aspect of the neck, and it moves with the protrusion of the tongue. When the tongue moves, will be getting mobilized. So that's one of the the most striking feature of the thyroglossal cyst. So let us discuss some other things. Lingual swellings. Apart from lingual swellings, we even have foramen cecum and the sulcus terminalis. And not only that, we have even some other this is the lingual swellings. Later on, they both will be fusing with each other. I'll be drawing the adult thyroid. It will be like the lingual swellings. They will be fusing with each other. They will be forming the anterior two-third. We can say that the tongue is developed from the occipital somatis or occipital myotomes. Post-aortic occipital myotomes will give rise to the musculature. The internal muscles of the tongue are developed from the post-aortic cervical occipital myotomes, while the pre-aortic cervical occipital myotomes will be giving rise to the extraocular muscles. The post-aortic cervical occipital myotomes will be giving to the intrinsic muscles of the tongue. So this anterior two-third of the tongue is developed from the first arch, and it can be concluded. We can correlate it in the gross anatomy wise also. The anterior two-third, the general sensations are by the lingual branch of the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, and the arch of the first nerve, the nerve of the first arch is mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve. So this is particular part is developed from the first arch. And even the first arch has a pretraumatic and a post-traumatic branch. The pretraumatic branch is nothing but the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve. So the special sensations for this anterior two-third of the tongue is by the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve, which is nothing but the pretraumatic branch of the first pharyngeal arch. Therefore, we can correlate it like this. So next, coming to the sulcus terminalis. The sulcus terminalis. The sulcus terminalis is actually developed from the region in between the first arch and the second arch. That gives rise to something called as the sulcus terminalis. This divides the tongue into anterior two-third and the posterior one-third. So this anterior two-third is applied by the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve as well as the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve branch called as the lingual nerve. On the posterior one-third, now this particular thing, posterior one-third of the tongue, it will be giving rise to the posterior one-third of the tongue will be arising from the second arch has got no role in the development of the tongue, and it has got a very minimal contribution. If at all in options, the second arch is there, and there are some other options like lingual swellings, or we can say the third arch, even the fourth arch. At that time, we can ignore the second arch. So second arch is not a thing, or it has got a very minimal role in the development. It has got no much significance in the development of the tongue. This third arch will be helping in the formation of the posterior one-third of the tongue. Posterior one-third of the tongue. It is formed by the third arch, and this can be confirmed by comparing it in the gross anatomy terms through nerve supply aspect. The nerve of this third arch will be the glossopharyngeal nerve of the CN9, while the posterior one-third of the tongue, the posterior 1/3 of the tongue is developed from the glossopharyngeal nerve. Both, it is supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve, both general and the special sensations. And here we have even the hypobranchial eminence. This hypobranchial eminence is also contributing to the development of the tongue. And if you come further, even the fourth arch will be also contributing to the development of the tongue. It is nothing but the posterior most part of the tongue. So the posterior most part of the tongue. It is the posterior most part of the tongue. This posterior most part of the tongue, it is developed from the fourth pharyngeal arch. This can be confirmed by the gross anatomy aspect, nerve supply aspect. Like nerve of this fourth pharyngeal arch will be the vagus nerve. In vagus nerve we have the superior laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The superior laryngeal nerve is a nerve for the fourth arch, while the recurrent laryngeal nerve is the nerve for the sixth arch. So this fourth arch, superior laryngeal nerve, is posterior most part of the tongue is supplied by the superior laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of the vagus nerve. So it confirms that this posterior most part of the tongue is developed from the fourth arch. So one more thing here, I would like to highlight one more thing, and that thing is the circumvallate papillae. The circumvallate papillae, initially the circumvallate papillae, those things will be like they will be in the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, but during the development they will be assembled at the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, just in front of the sulcus terminalis. Normally, during initial stages, they will be in the posterior 1/3. Later on, they will be assembled in front of the sulcus terminalis in the anterior 1/3 of the tongue. So, although the anterior 1/3 of the tongue entirely supplied by the facial nerve for special sensations, or the lingual branch of the mandibular division of the trigeminal for the general sensations, this particular circumvallate papilla, they are still supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve, also called as the cranial nerve 9. This particular thing I would like to say here. This is about the tongue. It's the sensory aspects. I mean the anterior 2/3, posterior 1/3, and posterior most part, and how it is related to the development in through this pharyngeal apparatus, the pharyngeal arches and the pharyngeal apparatus space. So the intrinsic, these are all will be something called as the sensory supply. What about the motor? Motor, we have again the intrinsic muscle as well as the extrinsic muscle. Entire intrinsic muscle of the tongue are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve or the cranial nerve 12, while the extrinsic muscles, it differs, like genoglossus, we have thyroglossus, hyoglossus. I would like to discuss this thing in embryology wise. The other thing I have importance in gross anatomy wise. There is only one thing of my interest at this embryology point of view, that is nothing but the palatoglossus. Palatoglossus will be like this, in a separate fold. Palatoglossus. So like this will be, assuming that palate is there. Beneath this palate, tongue is there. This palatoglossus will be associated like this. Palatoglossus. This palatoglossus is supplied by the palatoglossus muscle. It actually develops from the this thing, the fourth arch. The fourth arch. So it should be supplied by vagus. No, it is supplied even by one more accessory nerve also. So it is called as the fourth. The palatoglossus is developed from the fourth arch, supplied by something called as the vagus accessory complex. Vagus accessory complex. So this is how it looks like. How the nerve supply is like. And we have discussed about the developmental aspects. Some developmental anomalies we can say, like ankyloglossia or tongue tie, means usually the base of the tongue is attached, the apex of the tongue is free. When the apex of the tongue is also attached in such condition, it is called as the ankyloglossia or the tongue tie. There is something called as bifid tongue, in which the pharyngeal arch contents of either sides fail to fuse, and particularly the tongue, which is the part which is given rise to the tongue in future, those parts will fail to fuse, and it results in the formation of a bifid tongue. And often, that the foramen cecum, which is present at the junction of the first and the second arch, from this foramen cecum, the thyroglossal duct arises, and this thyroglossal duct will be giving rise to the future thyroid gland. So occasionally, the ectopic thyroid gland, the most common site of ectopic thyroid gland is nothing but the lingual thyroid. So this is the essentials at the UG level regarding the development of the tongue as well as the tongue development and the congenital anomalies associated with the development of tongue. And we even synchronized it with the nerve supply also. So thank you very much.